Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 7:01, I've been instructed, so we'll call this meeting to order. And if your computer is working, would you like to speak tonight?
Not yet.
Okay, all right. Otherwise, you have your tablets in front of you. Mark yourself. Judy's present, and who else do I have up there? And Abby, are you can hear me, Judy?
Yes.
Yep. Abby, you can hear us also?
Yeah, I couldn't get my
All
camera on.
All right. We have a quorum?
Yes, we do. We only have one absent.
Okay.
Jeffrey.
I got one. I'll get organized with it now. I'm done. All right, we will rise for a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3 is to review the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Let's wait for the technology, Mike, but
Is it not working?
all right, Mike moved. Is there a second? Dave seconded that. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It should be working.
Yeah, now it's working.
It's up.
Abby, you were a yes, and Judy was a yes. All right, thank you. That passes unanimously. The minutes of the August 19 county board meeting. I have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion on that? All in favor, say aye, or
Aye.
no? Vote on the tablet or say, and it's 2 yeses on the screen. That passes unanimously also. I have no one signed in under citizens inquiry concern. Do you have any employee recognition? Nothing, okay. Standing committee reports. We'll start with Ag and Extension.
Ag and Extension and Land and Water did not meet this last month, but Pat Kilme called me this afternoon to put a plug in. Next Tuesday at 6 o'clock in the same room, Marquette County Groundwater Update Meeting. This is gonna be put on by Pat's department and the UW Stevens Point. It's gonna be addressing the results from the groundwater sampling, what was done. And UW Stevens Point is gonna touch on other stuff about groundwater quality. This is not a Land and Water Committee meeting. This is just a Pat's meeting together. So it is not treated here at the meeting, but I don't know, Kylie, how you gotta handle that with posting.
We'll put a form notice up for
Okay. So that's next Tuesday at 6 o'clock.
Is that gonna be online, Dennis?
No, I don't believe. I have a card here and I don't see any information of it, but here's, it is online?
Yeah.
Oh, you will,
I got
okay.
an email.
Okay.
Oh,
Thanks,
okay,
Danny.
It will be online.
okay, great, thanks.
I would quit.
We did not meet.
Executive Finance, it's in the packet, I guess, or if you believe that. Parks did not meet. Property, for themselves, Mr. Chair. Judicial and planning and zoning, Judy.
Yeah, the only thing with judicial and public safety is the union contract is on a resolution for tonight's meeting. And also last month it was indicated that the EMS department was having challenges getting applicants for the paramedic positions. They had several vacancies. Now with the new paramedic wage increase in place and it's been implemented, there've been several applicants applying for those positions. And zoning, again, there's a rezone resolution on the agenda for this evening. And the other big thing that zoning has been working on is the ordinance revisions so that it will make it easier for amendments in the future. And they've been spending a lot of time with Corp Council trying to break those ordinances out into 5 different chapters rather than having everything under one chapter. And that's all I have for zoning. Thank you.
Human Services.
Just a couple highlights. The minutes are accurate on SharePoint, but we did hire a case manager in behavioral health, but on the downside, we lost therapists. And then the Pig Fest that was held at Lake Arrowhead Campground was a success from what I've been told. The final numbers aren't in yet, but I'd like to acknowledge Lake Arrowhead Campground for partnering with our food pantry to promote and give back to the community. So kudos to them.
Board of Health.
Board of Health, just want to remind folks to get the word out that the community calendar has been up and running for approximately 2 months. And this community calendar is not just for Marquette County government events. So try to get the word out to different groups and organizations to post their events on there, to get publicity out there to attend these events. Also, one other thing that was not in the minutes is there is a pediatrician, Dr. Howard, is going to be doing some programs or presentations, intro to your baby's health. He'll be providing educational information and question and answer sessions. And the first one is scheduled at 4:30 to 6:30 on November 5th at the Health Department. And he's also tentatively scheduling dates for January 15th and April 7th. So this is a good thing that we're going to get actually some medical folks providing information and allowing people to come in with questions regarding baby's health and just some basic information for care for young babies. So that's something that we got that's fairly new to Board of Health. That's it.
Any other reports from any member of the board? All right. I see our honored guest, Andy Phillips, has arrived.
Honored guest. Wow. No pressure. Is that what it is?
I had another story to go with it, Andy, but I'll just try
Well,
to.
I've got a story for you. I was gonna be 15 minutes early until one of your finest told me I was going too fast on Highway 23 and gave me a nice little written thing that said I have to be back here. So congratulations. I am contributing to you tonight, not the other way around. Right? It's working.
Thank you for
Sorry, my
donating.
rates doubled this evening, in case you're wondering.
So are ours.
Thanks for having me here tonight. It's been a while since I've been to Marquette County, so it's awesome being back in front of you all on a beautiful fall evening. I wish that I wouldn't have got the ticket, but that's okay. Here we're going to talk a little bit about, and your board chair has indicated that I've only got 2 hours tonight. Normally it's a 3-hour presentation.
We know you're quick.
You're supposed to laugh. That's supposed to be funny. I've got 20, 30 minutes. I'm going to cover these topics quickly. And there's a lot of slides here, and that's fine. But I want this as a resource for you to go back, take a look at, think about. If you want additional resources, go to wicounties.org. There's not a topic that we talk about tonight that isn't dove into in detail on the website. So feel free to take a look at the website if you have additional questions. We're going to talk about understanding roles and responsibilities and what happens if board members act out of line. Now, we know that board members never act out of line, so that's going to be a very short discussion, so we should be fine. So let's start with roles and responsibilities in county government. Brief history lesson here. If we look at the history of county government in Wisconsin, we start in 1818 with 3 counties, and it's in 1836 to 1901 that we see the explosion of county government from 6 to 71. Of course, something big happened in 1848, and that was we became a state. So in 1961, our last county was created. I say all of this because understanding this history gives us some insight into the nature of county government, which is important to understand your role as county board supervisors. If we look at 1818, it was territorial government. back then. And we had 3 counties established out of territorial governments. And then we again go through the 1800s and we see the number of counties growing. So when we think about the nature of county government, its fundamental purpose, it's to be the local presence of the state or pre-statehood, the territory within a particular geographic area. And so we'll get into this as we get into the presentation, but that's why we have things in county government like constitutional officers, our sheriff, register of deeds, state treasurer, clerk of circuit court, things like that. It's all about the local presence of the state in a particular geographic region. And so when counties were first formed in Wisconsin, there was a debate. Are we going to follow the supervisor form of government where we have a large board focused on administration, or the commissioner form where we have a smaller board and independently those commissioners have authority for the provision of services and responsibility for the provision of services? So which model are we going to follow? After a series of court decisions, we landed on the supervisor model. Why is that important? What does all of that mean? Again, understanding the history gives us insight as to what our role is today as the Marquette County Board, and for that matter, the other 71 county boards throughout the state. And so if we look at our county structure, again, this is all stuff that has been around for a long time. Municipal authority comes from the Constitution. Municipalities enjoy constitutional home rule authority, recognition at the outset of our state that a city or village that has a home rule charter ordinance has the ability to govern its affairs as it sees fit, subject only to limited intrusion by the state legislature. Counties aren't like that. We don't have constitutional recognition of home rule authority. Instead, we have administrative home rule authority that's contained in 5903 and 5951 of the statutes, which again, I'll get into in a moment, but it's again, fundamentally different in terms of county authority as compared to city and village authority. That said, even though I've said that we as counties are the local presence of the state, in many respects, we do enjoy a separate existence. And that's recognized in statute. We're a body corporate that can sue and be sued. All right. So we are a unique and independent entity from the state of Wisconsin, even though the fundamental nature of county government is to be the local presence of the state in a particular geographic area. All counties in Wisconsin, all 72, are governed by a board of supervisors. They range in size from 7 to 38. What number is right is up to you. Up to you and the citizens of Marquette County and your determination as to what the appropriate board size is. As I mentioned, we have administrative home rule authority, 5903 sub 1 and 5951 sub 1 of the statutes. I often call this the freedom statute. This gives us the ability to organize our affairs at the county level as we best see fit, subject only to an enactment of the legislature dictating that we do or not do a certain thing. And so when it comes to county power to do something, we first look to administrative home rule authority to make sure it's within our powers. There are 3 basic forms of county government: county executive, county administrator, and administrative coordinator. And if we look at the map of Wisconsin, we see that there are 12 elected county executives, primarily populous counties in southeast Wisconsin, 35 appointed county administrators, 2 of those have a dual role, and 10 appointed administrative coordinators, 2 of whom have a dual role. And so if we were to take this map and rewind the clock about 25 years, you would see a lot less red. The red are the administrator counties. We had a lot of counties that had the administrative coordinator model. Over time, we've seen a migration from administrative coordinator over to administrator. Does that mean administrator is better? Not necessarily. It's up to each county to make that decision. But I think it's a recognition that the business of county government has gotten incredibly complicated. I don't care how big or small your county is. The business of county government here in Wisconsin has gotten incredibly complicated. So a lot of county boards have said, you know what? We really need a professional like Ron in charge of the administration of county government. So they've moved over to the administrator model. That's governed, the administrator model, which you have here, is governed by 59.18 of the statutes. Your county administrator serves as the chief administrative officer of the county, make sure that ordinances are enforced, observed, administered within the county, coordinates and directs management functions within the county, appoints and removes and supervises Department heads, subject to board confirmation. Department head supervises the administration of the department, and the board performs advisory or policy making functions authorized by statute. When we think about the county administrator model, I think this is the cleanest form of county government. What do I mean by that? I mean that we've got clear lines of authority from board to administrator, administrator to department head to staff. We all understand the chain of command. We all understand exactly who we report to, and we understand who serves at the pleasure of whom. What do I mean by that? If we don't like the job our administrator is doing as a county board, what is our recourse? What can we do? The statute 59.18 quite clearly says that we can remove the administrator at any time that the administrator's conduct becomes unsatisfactory. And I don't mean conduct like misconduct. I mean like he or she is not doing their job. We have the ability as the board to remove the administrator. A vacancy is filled by majority vote of the board. In other words, the board exercises authority over the position of administrator. So then we get back to what I said previously about the administrator form being the cleanest form. It's the one, at least in my opinion, that most closely resembles what we see in private corporations. Think about it for a second. We've got, in a private corporation situation, shareholders that elect a board of directors. The board of directors appoints the CEO, and the CEO makes sure that the business operates. If the CEO isn't doing his or her job, what does the board of directors do? Gets rid of the CEO. If the shareholders are unhappy with the board of directors, what do? They unseat a particular board member or the entire board. And so we translate that to county government. We've got the voters that elect the county board appoints administrator has oversight responsibility of department heads. And if administrator is not performing, board's recourse, take out the administrator. If the board isn't performing, voters' recourse, vote the board members out of office. And so again, I think it's the cleanest form of county government models that we see here in Wisconsin. There we go. All right. So administrative coordinator, if we look, I put the exact statute up here. It's the second bullet point here. The administrative coordinator shall be responsible for coordinating all administrative and management functions of the county government, not otherwise vested by law in boards or commissions or in other elected officers. Somebody please tell me what this means. It's a lot of words that sound really good and everybody can nod their head and say, oh, makes sense, but tell me what that means.
You don't micromanage.
No, but that statement right there doesn't tell me what the administrative coordinator does. I look at 59.18, I can tell you exactly what a county administrator does. I look at 59.19 on administrative coordinator and I say, well, I guess we try to figure this out on our own. And that's exactly what happens in counties with an administrative coordinator. You've got some counties that have a full-time coordinator that in many respects is just like a county administrator, but without the statutory authority. Then you've got other counties where you've got a county clerk, or in some instances, a county board chair serving as administrative coordinator. Makes no sense whatsoever. They're both administrative coordinators under 59.19, but vastly different responsibilities. Why is that? Well, we have the freedom, remember the freedom statute, we have the ability to organize our affairs as we see fit as a county, and some counties have chosen the administrative coordinator model, and they define the position in a way that they see fit. Again, you can do this. I happen to think personally, my opinion, this isn't the cleanest form. It's not the easiest to understand roles and responsibilities in that particular form, but many counties have made that choice. And let me make this abundantly clear if it's not clear already. I have never sat in your seat. I have never been an elected official within county government. Sarah hasn't either. And so all we offer is our observations about what we see working and where we see issues. And I think it's fair to say, Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, that we see the vast majority of issues when it comes to breakdown or problems surrounding roles and responsibilities in administrative coordinator counties because of the lack of statutory clarity. All right. So congratulations. You made a good choice on the county administrator as far as I'm concerned. There you go, Ron. So we know as the county board that our role is defined as a legislative function. Remember when I talked about the debate in the mid-1800s about what type of county government are we going to have? And the debate was won by the group that said the county board serves a legislative function. That means we enact policy, we approve budgets, we establish levy, we engage in cooperative decision-making. No operational control or authority resides with any individual county board supervisor. A county board supervisor represents the interests of their constituents, but they serve the interests of the entire county. And that's important, all right? Because all of us come from varied backgrounds. We have a ton of talent that's sitting on this board because of the experiences that you bring to the board floor. Some of you may be teachers, some of you may be doctors, some of you may be preachers, anything. Heaven forbid if any of you are lawyers, but all of you bring varied experiences. You also have experience with other layers of government or in private industry. That's awesome. That, again, contributes to the fabric of Marquette County, and it certainly influences the decisions that you make as the board. But understand that collectively, this board operates in the best interests of Marquette County. So it's important to keep that in mind. So supervisor's authority is collective, not individual. So I ask the question, do supervisors actually supervise anything? I don't think so. It's a historical term. I get it. And it's a matter of supervisor. It sounds formal and good, but I think that it leads to confusion. Because if we commonly think about somebody's supervisor, that means that they are managing somebody else. We don't manage anybody, all right? As a board, as supervisors, our authority is collective, not individual. So thank you, legislature, for creating confusion with the name. So I think the county board is having two roles. First is to adopt policy. We talked about that. Act as the legislature for Marquette County government. But the second is to hold staff accountable. In your circumstance with a county administrator, it's clear that you have a statutory obligation and power to hold your county administrator accountable for carrying out the policy that you as a board enact. All right? So the two roles, adopt policy and hold staff accountable for faithfully implementing the policy that you enact. The role, and this should be our aspiration as county board members, is to have somebody out there call us a visionary. How many of you have been called a visionary by somebody other than your spouse in the last 6 months? Right. That should be our aspiration. That should be our goal, is to be a visionary. I love this county board rule. It's from Chippewa County. You don't need to cut and paste it. It's fine, but I thought this was a great example that illustrates the distinction between the role of the board and the role of administration within Wisconsin county government. The role of the board is to set the strategic mission and priorities for the county, establish general policies by which the county is guided in the management of its affairs, consider and act upon resolutions and ordinances, provide financial oversight, and build community relationships in support of the mission and priorities. The board appoints the administrator and monitors the county administrator's management of the daily operations and implementation of policy. This perfectly encapsulates what I just discussed as the two roles of the board: to adopt policy and hold staff accountable for the faithful implementation of that policy. Even our county board chair doesn't have any sort of singular control or authority over any aspect of county operations. Your county board chair is the leader of this deliberative assembly, leader of the legislative body within Marquette County government. So if we look at 59.12 of the statutes, we have provisions talking about presiding over meetings, administering oaths, countersigning ordinances, providing guidance and direction on moving issues through the board. Under 59.13, typically appoints committees or has some role in the committee appointment process. None of the statutory responsibilities relate to control or responsibility over any individual function within Marquette County government. And so it's very important that we understand our county board chair does not have any individual operational authority. When we look at how the board conducts its business, we use our standing committees to do a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to policy development. And that's the way it should be. The committees are the ones who need to roll up their sleeves and make a solid policy recommendation to the board, so the board has confidence that what it is reviewing has been fully vetted at the committee level. And so again, the committee's role is to assist in policy development. Committees have to do a lot of that work. A lot of the knowledge expertise resides at the committee level. Contrast what I've just been discussing as the role of the board with the role of administration, department heads and staff. Our department heads, our staff, our county administrator, they have to be involved in implementation of policy, and that requires a shorter term vision. They're not visionaries unless we ask them to be visionaries. They're focused on the minutia, the day-to-day operations within Marquette County government. It requires attention to detail. It requires specialized training. So we want really good folks in those positions. So when we think about the role of staff, remember, county board has two roles: enact policy and hold staff accountable for implementation of that policy. Staff has two roles. Staff has an obligation, not a choice, an obligation to carry out their duties in a manner consistent with the policy that this board establishes. And then they got to make you look good. What do I mean by that? Is that they need to give you recommendations and advice so that you are able to make informed policy decisions. That's really important and a critical role of staff. When I talked earlier about the complexities of Wisconsin County government, it has gotten incredibly more complex over the last 150 years. And frankly, over the last 20 years, it's gotten a lot more complex. You can't be an expert on all of that stuff. I don't care how much you read. I don't care how much you study. I've been representing counties for 30 years. I learn something new about county government every week, guaranteed. And so if you are not expected to be the expert on all of these things, where does that expertise reside? It resides with staff. And if you need to make an informed decision about a really important ordinance, a really important resolution, a really important budgetary amendment, who do you turn to give you the information necessary to get informed to make a good decision? You turn to staff. So again, critical role of staff. Not only do they faithfully implement the policy direction that this board establishes, but they also make you look good by giving you that professional advice and recommendation. I put this slide up here, and this is the one that sometimes gets me into trouble. It illustrates exactly what we're talking about when it comes to staff with the role of the board. So when we look at staff and think about what we want in our staff, I want you to think about if we were hiring, for example, a new highway commissioner. And I want you to think about, and this is going to date me, but I want you to think about the help wanted ad that we put out for this new highway commissioner. We want somebody who's got an education, maybe even an engineering degree. We want somebody who has experience with county, state, town, highway systems. We want somebody who's got some sort of professional accreditation. We want somebody who's been a member and will continue to be a member of various associations that help them perform the job of highway commissioner. You add all of that up, and we want the best and the brightest to take care of the highways within Marquette County. So that help wanted ad is going to be pretty long. It's going to have a whole list of qualifications. Then they're going to go through an interview process, and we're going to thoroughly vet that person to make sure that they are the right fit for Marquette County. Now, I want you to think for a moment and compare what I just discussed with the help wanted ad for county board supervisor. What does the help wanted ad look like for a county board supervisor? What are the qualifications to be a board supervisor? Oh, you have to be over 18, don't you?
Yeah, other than that.
Okay, you gotta be over 18. What else? You gotta be over 18. What else?
Member of your district.
Yeah.
You gotta reside in your district. What else? There's one more important, really important one.
Felon.
Can't be a felon. There you go. Wow. You have to be over 18, reside in your district, can't be a felon, and compare that to what we're dealing with the highway commissioner help wanted ad. It illustrates the distinction between the two positions, because the most important qualification for you to sit in your seats, what's the most important qualification? You got more votes than the other guy or the other gal. All right. The people in your district placed their trust in you to represent their interests on this board. Doesn't matter what your background is, doesn't matter what your education is, doesn't matter what your experiences are. The people trust you to sit on this board and represent their interests. And that's exactly the way that I would want it. I would want somebody in these seats that speaks for the people that you represent. That's the only qualification that matters to me. So why is this important? Why are we discussing this? Because it reinforces the policymaking function of the board. You're not expected to be experts. We will hire expertise. Your job is to represent the people in Marquette County. Department heads have a leadership role within their departments according to the guidelines that are established by this board. And just so you think I'm not making all of this up, because it's not like we can open up chapter 59 of the statutes and see this clearly laid out. It's not as though I'm reading from a script that's contained within Wisconsin law. This isn't easy to figure out. I fully understand why several counties out there have problems in understanding the distinction of roles and responsibilities, because it's not clear. There's no how-to manual when it comes to county government. There have only been a few cases that have ever made their way up to the Court of Appeals relating to this concept of roles and responsibilities within county government. One of them is Schutte versus Vanderhay. It involved the Outagamie County executive. And I love this excerpt from the case because it looks to different sources, draws upon those sources to reach the conclusion, all right? Attorney General opinion, dictionary, the leading treatise on municipal corporations around the country. And I love the last sentence here. The crucial test for determining what is legislative and what is administrative has been said to be whether the ordinance or policy is one making a new law or policy, or one executing a law or policy already in existence. Schutte versus Vanderhay, Outagamie County has a county executive. The issue in that case was that the land surrounding the Outagamie County Airport was available. And the county board said, we need to lease that land for agricultural purposes. County executive said, no, we're not going to do that. It creates a safety issue for the airport. There was not an FAA problem. There was not a state law problem. It was the county executive merely deciding that this created a safety issue. So we're not going to lease that land. County board said, we are going to lease that land. They couldn't figure it out on their own, so they went to court. Who won that case, board or executive?
Board.
Board?
Executive.
How many people think executive? How many people think board? All right, the board won. The board won. Here's the kicker, who negotiates the lease? The executive. It's an example of what I like to call baked-in conflict in the statutes. You find this all over the place. Where the legislature, I don't know, I hate to use the word wisdom and legislature in the same sentence, but the legislature was wise in creating this baked-in conflict that's not resolved to force people to have discussions, to force people to work it out. Now, they weren't able to work it out in this case, but in many circumstances, we are forced as a board, as administration, as constitutional officers to have discussions with each other to try to figure it out. All right, so what happens if we have a breakdown in the distinction between the policymaking function in county government and the administrative function? I talked earlier about problems Sarah and I have seen in some of these counties where they do not have a firm grasp on roles and responsibilities. What happens? Well, here's a long list of things that we've seen happen, but I've got one highlighted in red, which I think is incredibly important. The board becomes reactive instead of proactive. We have really, really long meetings solving all of the world's problems that are presented to us instead of solving problems before they happen. Is a visionary reactive or proactive? A visionary is proactive. So again, let's aspire to be proactive and be visionaries. I mentioned before the organizational chart in counties with an administrator. It's very clean. It's simple. This is straight out of 59.18. We know it. Boom, we're done. End of story. Drop the mic. It's easy. We got it kicked in Marquette County, right? What about constitutional officers? Where do they go on the organizational chart? As if it's not hard enough that the legislature did not give us a how-to manual for counties, they then graft onto that lack of a how-to manual, this concept of constitutional offices. And so we talk about them having a dual persona. They are responsible to the electorate for their constitutional and statutory functions, but they also need to figure out how to fold into county government to serve in a leadership capacity as a department head within county government. And so they have to have a relationship with the county administrator. They have to have a relationship with the county board. Now, what happens if we don't think that the constitutional officer ought to be doing one of their statutory duties? What can we do about it? Not a doggone thing. Not a doggone thing. They are solely responsible for carrying out their statutory function, all right? But you talk to any constitutional officer in Marquette County, I guarantee you they will say, and they're right, that they do a heck of a lot more than the bare minimum required by statute. So why am I bringing this up? Why am I saying this? Remember, I talked about this concept of baked-in conflict. This is another circumstance where we have baked-in conflict because constitutional officers have sole statutory prerogative to carry out their function. But then the question becomes, with whose money? Who controls the purse strings? The county board does through the budget process. So should we have discussions with our constitutional officers, and for that matter, department heads, about what they do in their office, what they do in their department, what resources they need to carry out their functions? Absolutely, we should be having those discussions, all right? We want to avoid the court decisions. We want to avoid the long drawn-out fights over whose decision it is. Because when we have fights internally about whose decision it is, how does that make us look as a county? Doesn't look very good, right? Do you think the citizens really care whose decision it is? The citizens just want services. And if you look at the services that we provide as county government, whether it be law enforcement, human services, other general services, these are all some pretty vulnerable people that need help. They don't really care about whose decision it is. They care about receiving the service. And so I would encourage you, like I encourage all other county boards, to have a lot of discussions with constitutional officers and with department heads about what it is that they do and what sort of resources are necessary to carry out their function. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to have to always agree with what they say. I've never, ever known a constitutional officer to come in at budget time and say, I really only want half of my budget allotment from last year. That's all I want. I'm good. That's not going to happen. All right. But through a series of discussions, what do you need to do? What resources do you, what ideas do we have? That leads to an informed decision by the board when it comes budget time. So ultimately, we want to work together as a goal. We want to understand roles and responsibilities, and administration ought not interfere with the legislative process of the board. The board ought not interfere with administration. We do that because we understand our function as a board, and administration understands their function as the administrative branch of county government. Devote the time needed to do a good job. Remember, I said you can't be experts in everything. That doesn't mean that you get to sit back and have others tell you what to say. What that means is that you're going to get a lot of documents to read. Devote the time necessary to read those documents and make that informed policy decision. The third bullet point down, admit what you don't know. That to me is critically important. I have said before that I've never sat in your seat. I can't imagine the anxiety that would hit if I was a brand new county board supervisor and at the very first meeting placed on my desk is a request for a budget amendment to increase the appropriation to human services to take care of an out of county placement to the tune of $250,000. I'd be like, what in the world are you talking about? Why is this costing us $250,000? And you mean to tell me that you knew nothing about this in advance? There's nothing we can do about this? That would be incredibly intimidating. All right. So it's okay to say, I don't understand what this is. I don't understand this mandate under chapter 51 or chapter 46, whatever it may be. Admit that you don't know something so that staff understands that they need to get you information to make that informed policy decision. Don't make promises outside board meetings. Let people know that we'll listen, but don't agree with anything. Don't become a complaint department. I always talk about the role of the county board member when it comes to interacting with the public is to being a good shepherd. You are going to guide them through the process of getting their issue resolved, but you're not responsible for absolutely resolving their issue. And that runs contrary to human nature. I've seen your paychecks. You're not doing this for the money. Guaranteed. You're doing this because you love the people that you represent and you have a love for this county. And in that love for the people and love for the county, that means you want to get something done. And the easiest thing to do in terms of getting something done is to jump right in and try to solve a problem. I'm telling you that runs counterproductive to your ultimate goal, which is to have that type of problem resolved. Because when you circumvent the process for getting that problem resolved, it leads to issues. So again, be the shepherd. Guide the constituent to the appropriate resource that can solve their issue. That's your job as a county board member. Remember that staff has to be politically savvy, not R&D politically savvy, issue politically savvy. They have to understand the politics of an issue, but they have an obligation to remain neutral. So we should always understand that staff is providing you with their professional advice and not accuse them of coloring their advice in one way or another. All right. And if you think it is colored, ask the questions, make sure it's not. But we go in with the presumption that staff is giving us professional advice. They're not taking sides. So there are some key points to remember here. I'm not going to belabor the points that are contained on the screen. Again, you can take a look at the presentation and review these points, but it's the things that we just discussed. I want to talk a little bit about dealing with misbehaving board members, because that's been a topic of discussion all around the state. What do we do if we have board members and the general public acting out of line at board meetings? I don't know if you've had this issue here or not. Not suggesting you have, not suggesting you haven't. I'm putting this in here because it's been a topic of discussion. Along those lines, we had a full hour and 15-minute discussion on this at one of the In the Boardroom series that we do every month over the noon hour on the third Wednesday or fourth Wednesday, Sarah? Fourth Wednesday? And it's on the wicounties.org website if you ever want to take a look at the video. Before I move on with this, any questions, comments, concerns about the role of county boards in Wisconsin county government? So everybody's got it figured out, so you'll ace the test that I'm about to give you? All right, good. I like that. All right. Here's the big one that I want to address, is that when we hear about issues, I hear a mix-up of terminology. I will hear somebody say, you've got an ethics problem with that. That's a moral issue. That's a conduct issue, without really defining the difference. There is a significant difference in the law between ethics, morals, and misconduct. Ethics deals with money, all right? If it's not a money issue, it's not an ethical issue. The performance issues, the proper, appropriate conduct is defined by ordinance or board rule. Those are the boundaries under which we all operate. Morals relate to basic societal expectations. They're not written down anywhere. They're just the basic understanding of the moral code throughout society. I bring this up because those three categories all need to be treated differently, all right? And I want to make sure everybody understands how we deal with those three different categories differently. Ethics. There are categories of prohibited conduct under the Ethics Code for local government officials contained within 19.59 of the Wisconsin statutes, 1 through 5. Again, I've had hour-and-a-half-long discussions dealing with that local ethics code. I'm not going to get into that detail tonight. Understanding these 5 categories exist is enough for our purposes here. Why am I putting this up here? Because if you read 1 through 5, it all deals with money. That gets back to what I was saying earlier. Ethics, money. Those are the issues that we're going to deal with under the ethics code. If we look at conduct or performance issues, the ultimate remedy is to remove a county board supervisor who is coloring outside the lines, acting contrary to what we have said is appropriate conduct for a county board supervisor. But I will tell you right now, it's not as simple as simply taking a vote and saying, Andy Phillips is off the county board because we don't like what he did at the last meeting. You can't do that. You can only remove a county board member for cause. Cause is defined as inefficiency, neglect of duty, official misconduct, or malfeasance in office. And there is a full due process hearing component to any sort of hearing related to charges for removal of a county board supervisor. And you see in here, I've cited the statute, highlighted several terms. I highlighted them just to show you just how complex this process can be. And so when we talk about the ultimate remedy being removal of a supervisor, it's a drastic remedy, all right? You are upsetting the will of the voters, but it's also an expensive and time-consuming remedy. And so okay, Andy, if it's really tough to remove somebody from office, what can we do? Does anybody know what statute is out there talking about what else you can do? It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. So we turn to things like Robert's rules and basic conventions within local government and say, what else can we do? We see this thing called a censure resolution. We have the ability to officially slap somebody on the hand and say, bad, bad boy, bad, bad girl, you shouldn't do that. We adopt a resolution, a censure resolution that says we don't agree with this conduct. You need to conform and things like that. So we can do a censure resolution. Of course, that brings with it certain First Amendment concerns. We have a 2022 case from the United States Supreme Court that tells us that we have to make sure that we understand the boundaries associated with First Amendment freedom of speech. But for the most part, the Supreme Court recognized that as a local government, we have the ability to adopt rules and control our affairs as we see fit and hold other members of the board accountable for following those rules. Great. And then the question becomes, well, all right, you talk to us about misconduct and defining misconduct within ordinance or board rules. What do you mean by that? Here's what I mean by this, is that if we put in black and white in our board rules, something that speaks to this concept of decorum, something that speaks to this concept of misconduct, and define what the boundaries of acceptable conduct are, we are serving two purposes. Number one, in the event that we have to take some sort of action against somebody who's acting out of line, we've got the rules. We say, you violated this rule here. But second, and I think more importantly, is that we are providing notice to everybody as to what is expected of them when they come to a committee meeting, when they come to a board meeting. And hopefully that avoids problems before they ever happen. Hopefully we have people that take this seriously. All right. So again, very important purpose of having these performance expectations in board rules is to set those performance standards. I want to take it a step further and get it outside the realm of dealing with just board members. What about the general public? If we have ever had contentious issues in Marquette County and we have a public comment period on the agenda, we have members of the public getting up and berating us. We have members of the public holding signs, doing chants, using obscenities, things like that. Do we have anything in our board rules that establishes expectations for the general public? If the answer is no, we ought to think about something like that. Again, hopefully we never have to use them, but it provides us the foundation if we ever have to say somebody's violating the rules, we can point to a rule that they're violating. And also it sets expectations for the general public. And then we have morality. All right. Those again are just generally societal norms. If you plan on regulating morality within your board rules or ordinance, please let me know so I can purchase a new sports car because you're going to pay for it. All right. Because there is no way you can regulate morals. You can't do it. All right. There's no way you can get that done. And so again, it's important to understand what are morals, understand what are ethics, and understand what misconduct is. And we treat each of those categories separately, and we deal with them separately. All right, so I've talked about this just briefly. We want to have discussions about expectations. I'm a big believer in establishing expectations. If people have a meeting of the minds as to what's expected of them, we have the ability to enforce those rules. So I'm a big proponent of having open discussions about expectations. If we have somebody acting out of line, the chair could publicly comment and call that person out. We do so respectfully. If we have particular issues that we see, and this has come up a lot recently, where we see a supervisor just acting completely out of line in comparison to what we would expect from that supervisor, we might be dealing with an issue that just goes beyond that supervisor being ornery, for example. We might have an EAP issue where they need some help, and we want to help that supervisor and make sure that they are okay. So we might want to work with our HR department to see what resources are available. So there are a lot of things that you can do. Again, none of them are clearly laid out in statute, but there are a lot of things that you can do as a board. So I think I've covered the entire presentation, unless Ron, you think I missed something, or Mr. Chair?
You did it in less than 3 hours.
It is less than 3 hours. So does that mean you're gonna pay my ticket?
I didn't say that.
Okay. Questions, comments, concerns, disagreements, whatever.
Anybody?
You haven't lost your touch, Andy.
I
Thank
haven't
you.
lost, see, I was flustered when I got in here because I'd just gotten a ticket, hint, hint. And I didn't know if I'd be able to perform, but apparently I did. Thank you.
Anyone else? Question for Andy?
I thought it clarified a lot of things. I thought it was good.
Good. Let me end this way. All right, 2 things. Number 1, I'm gonna plug the WCA conference next week because we have a lot of these type of discussions at that conference. 2, you can go to wicounties.org and take a look at all of the various materials that are there relating to these topics and more. And finally, I want to thank you, honestly, because as I said, I've never sat in your seats. I've seen your paychecks. I know you're not doing this for the money. So thank you for your service to Marquette County and Wisconsin County government. Thanks. Very slow.
Thank you.
I don't know what I do with that, but now it's your, now it's your responsibility.
A lot of pressure.
There you go. I'll see you on Monday.
Yeah, you will. We are to item 8, updated smoking, vaping, and tobacco use.
Posted on SharePoint, the language that I'd like to change our current smoking policy to now include smoking, vaping, and tobacco use. There was a complaint made by the Department of Corrections, doing an investigation on their end about the complaint. So they basically said, we'd like a copy of your vaping policy. And I was like, we don't have a vaping policy. We do have a smoking policy, however. So they recommended that I would start the ball rolling by making a vaping policy roll into a smoking policy. So what you can see on SharePoint is the language that I'd like to institute. It's a new policy, and that'll be ratified by the incoming resolution as well. So I don't know if there's any questions about the policy, but basically just putting vaping language into the current policy.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or questions on that? Judy?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. It passes unanimously. Item 9, the consent agenda. Madam Clerk?
All right. The motion provided no member chooses to pull individual matters described off the consent agenda would be move to approve resolution 50, 2025, and to approve the ad hoc county board rules committee as designated by the county board chairperson and vice chairperson, with the term to expire upon adoption of the updated rules for resolution 28, 2023. Resolution 50, 2025. If adopted, the Marquette County Board of Supervisors approves a 1.29 acre parcel will be rezoned to R1, owned by Walter Verhasselt, all in section 28, town of Newton.
Questions, comment? Easy, all the question. Judy, Abby? Yes.
Yes.
And yes. And for the record, just because nobody asked the question on who was on the ad hoc committee, it will be Dave Benson, Dennis Fenner, Gary Sorensen, Judy Nagper, and myself. And we will, when we get to the calendar planning, this is your warning, we will try to schedule a meeting yet this meeting.
Good selection.
All right. And where are we at? Separate consideration for resolution 51.
Resolution 51, 2025. If adopted, the Marquette County Board of Supervisors approves the amendment to Chapter 99 fees of the Marquette County ordinances by updating the standard dose flu vaccine fee to $52 and the high dose flu vaccine to $112, with the updated fees to go into effect 2 weeks after publication.
Am I having technical difficulties or is it?
It looks like we have a motion by Mr. Radis and a second by Mr. Sorensen.
Yeah, all right. And, any other discussion on this matter? Call the question.
Yes,
Yes, yes on the screen. You might,
Just so you know, on mine and on, Chuck's, we're not seeing who motioned and who,
Oh, is it
Seconded.
frozen or is it just not showing?
it just doesn't show up,
Is
just
it
so you
showing
know.
on anyone else's? When we do the
it
next
shows
one,
on the main one.
Shows on
I can
mine.
let you know on that if you really wanna know, Kathleen. I've got Mike made the motion and Gary seconded that one.
Yeah, and that's fine. I just wanted to mention that it wasn't showing up on some.
All right,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Thanks.
Danny did the updates, I'm not sure.
all right, that one passes unanimous. Next, Kylie.
All right, resolution 52, 2025. If adopted, the Market County Board of Supervisors approves the amendment to chapter 80, public property of the Market County ordinances by amending sections 80.03E and 80.08B, reflecting the updated policy language of smoking, vaping, use of e-cigarettes or similar devices, or any other form of tobacco or nicotine.
I have a motion by Mr. Fenner and a second by Mr. Raditz. Is there any discussion on this matter?
So, Mr. Chair, on my end, it says a motion to amend resolution 52, 2025 has been requested by Mr. Bornhoff. Is that true, Chuck? Did it press anything? I'll just hit ignore. Technical difficulties.
All right, all right. So I still have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Call the question. Abby, Judy?
yes,
Yes. That passes unanimously. Next, Kylie.
Okay. Resolution 53, 2025. If adopted, the Market County Board of Supervisors urges the state of Wisconsin to provide funding to offset the county fiscal impact caused by the enacted federal SNAP changes and to work with counties to ensure adequate resources for the administration of food share and related programs.
I have a motion by Ms. Locke and a second by Ms. Walters. Is there any discussion on this matter? Mike?
I have a question.
Mandy's online to answer any questions about this.
Okay, Mike's first and then Abby.
Okay, this was enacted by the government to actually, get people to work, that people, we all know the system is abused. I don't see a problem with having people work a little bit to get these benefits until they're 64 and stuff like that. And it's a step from the federal government to try to make counties tighten the reins, so to speak, because maybe we're just giving too many services, need to maybe cut some services. I think this is a good step forward, and we don't know that this is gonna be the end result where it's gonna cost us X amount of money if we don't do this. So I think it's a little preempted. Help me out, Mandy.
Yeah, so this really isn't about the eligibility criteria. This is a standard format that Wisconsin Counties Association has provided to us, but I agree there's a lot of information in there about potential changes. The thing we do know though is that the administrative fees, so to administer the programs, used to be shared 50-50 by the state and the feds, and the feds are now only going to pay 25% of that. So the issue really is that this is not a good time to have a county run system. And so really what this resolution is asking is for the state to pick up that additional 25%, because if they don't, that's going to fall back onto counties. And that's the administrative side. That's not doing with the eligibility. You are correct, Mike, that there's some parameters that are going into effect to try to make sure that we're tightening up eligibility and making sure that people who are able to work should be working. But this is about the administrative fee, and this is asking the state of Wisconsin to pay that portion instead of that falling on counties.
So it will not affect the parameters that they're looking to set up?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Abby?
That was all I needed. I just didn't understand all the technical stuff in the resolution, so that was all I needed. Thank you, Mandy.
Anyone else? All questions? Judy?
Yes.
Thumbs up. This is 15-1, 54 carries.
All right, resolution 54, 2025. If adopted, the Market County Board of Supervisors approves the extension of the Ad hoc Tourism Committee to dissolve upon the end of the current County Board of Supervisor membership term, which ends the third Tuesday in April of 2026.
Motion from Mr. Raddick and second from Mr. Ackerford. Is there any discussion on this matter? Hearing none, call the question. Abby, yes. Judy,
Yes.
That passes 15-1. 55.
Resolution 55, 2025. If adopted, the Market County Board of Supervisors approves the signing of the 2026 to 2028 three-year collective bargaining agreement with the County Deputy Sheriff's Association, WPPA, LEDR, with 5% pay increases on January 1 and July 1 of 2026, and 2.5% pay increases on January 1 and July 1 of both 2027 and 2028. It also amends arbitrator language from 5 staff arbitrators to 3, amends comp time to be accumulated from 36 to 60 hours, amends uniform allowance from 500 a year to 600 a year, amends language to reflect current on-call status pay of $2 an hour. It adds patrol and court services division on-call requirement of 1 weekend every 6 months, adds field training officers comp time, amend holiday schedule from 11 to 13.5, amend detective and patrol night shift differential hours from 7P to 7A, switching to 6P to 6A, amend longevity pay schedule to years 7 through 15 of 1% added to employees' hourly rate above the negotiated rate, and years 15 plus at an additional 1% will be added to the employee's hourly rate above the negotiated rate.
A motion from Ms. Walters, second from Mr. Benson. Is there any discussion on this? All question. Abby? Yes. Judy says
Yes.
It passes unanimously. Fiscal personnel reports. Ron?
Check the back of your calendars, you'll see an update for our staff changes. Of note, we did hire Brett Kvitter as the part-time tourism and social media coordinator. He'll be advising the ad hoc committee on tourism as we move forward. He'll also be assisting me to administer that $50,000 grant that we had from the WEDC. So that's all good news. He brings a lot of energy to this position. He has a lot of experience promoting businesses, and he's already hit the ground running. So I'm very happy to report that. You can then also see the rehires and resignations that we've had as well. In terms of the fiscal update, EMS and exec and finance independent budgets have yet to be approved. Those will be going back to committee shortly. And our state numbers have just come in over the last couple of days, so I'll be plugging those into our budget to see where we're at, to see what our potential draw in the general fund will be for this next budget. That's what I have.
Questions are on. The council's report.
Everyone, the report for Port Council is on file. I'll draw attention to two things. As noted before, we're working on the zoning ordinance amendment. And then one thing that wasn't included that we got started on this week and we'll be filing shortly are 2 forfeitures for zoning violations. We are seeking forfeiture for non-compliance with use violations. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Are we gonna get a copy of those? of the new zoning ordinances?
Yes, yes, you will. They are still, with the zoning administrator to, assemble and share, for, action.
And do they have to be voted on by this committee?
Yes, they will.
Any other questions, clerk council? Alright. Announcements and calendar planning. As Andy pointed out, the WCA conference is September 21st through the 23rd. Dell's October 21st is the strategic planning presentation by Allison Burnett to the county board. And then the budget meetings are Wednesday, the 12th. And the public hearing, same day. All right. And the ad hoc committee, if I can't adjourn the meeting and ask you the question, I have to ask you why. Is there a good time or date that works for the entire committee to meet? Because we only have 2 months to get the rules updated, correct? Riley?
Yes, we need to adopt them in November because papers are taken out December 1st.
Anytime between 9 and 2:30.
Between 9 and 2:30. Anyone else have?
Are there any days looking at your October calendar that looks good to schedule up to another meeting? Maybe after the zone meeting?
You want to do this as soon as you can.
This is the first, we have to do it more than once.
Good.
Right, we'll do the first one as quick as we can, just, or also plan on being consistent with that. We'll send your schedule, attorney, that kind of.
We have, 3 different attorneys in my office, whatever works with your schedule, or make, do to make it that.
My only request is that we do it before the county board meeting, after. That meeting's week's gonna be a little dicey. Anytime in October.
I would suggest we try to work the first week already. That way we'd have opportunity to take things back. We'll come out of that for setting the next meeting.
Yeah.
How about at the planning zone? Then we can meet over at the courthouse and then take a look at the current county board rules and be ready to go through it line by line and mark it up ahead of time if you have questions.
So 10:30-ish,
There's
Thursday the 2nd.
Just for clarification, you have it scheduled for 2 days?
We're scheduling the first one, Judy. We'll schedule the second one if we need it after that.
Okay, so when is the first one?
It will be the October 2nd at 10:30 at the courthouse.
Okay,
So can we get the room? You know, I don't know if that's Andy's court date or we could all attend. I don't get that opportunity very often.
Yeah, that room is open.
All right. If no one has a problem with that, we will meet at 10:30 with our marked up county board rules. All right, anything else? Anyone has to offer? Otherwise, the agenda being complete, I will adjourn this meeting.